Previously on agentpalmer.com, 60 years later, Stranger in a Strange Land might be essential anthropology reading. Another married and dating post from Mrs. Agent Palmer, now with more Otaku, and have you been asking why more since last episode? This is the Palmer Files, episode 177, featuring Abby Stason, whose job titles and occupations are as varied as the stars. But we do talk about what she's up to now, how she arrived there, and what it's like having a moment of self-reflection after running past a jogger in heels to catch the ferry. Are you ready? Let's do the show!
How do I want to be spending my day-to-day? How do I want to contribute in the world? That's a great question, because that's a razor's edge for me. Used to be, let me say that. So I'm a reformed rescuer. I can remember pulling over on the 101 on a Monday morning and breathing into a paper bag going, "What did you just do?" I couldn't keep up with how fast it wanted to happen. It's because I got out of the way and listened to what wanted to happen next. So here I am running in my heels, and I passed a runner.
Hello and welcome to the Palmer Files. I'm your host, Jason Stershik, also known as Agent Palmer, and on this 177th episode is Abigail Stason, or Abby as she prefers. So this doesn't come up during the episode, but I first encountered Abby as someone asking about watching the Tour de France Femmes on LinkedIn almost a year ago. I let her know how I watched that particular race, and then through looking at her varied job history, I invited her on the show. But I'm also happy I discovered her comment and answered it, because what you are about to hear is a wonderful conversation about nonlinear career pathing, as well as burnout, deep listening, and finally finding her groove. All that plus learning from toxic leaders, slowing down versus stopping, and the aforementioned passing a jogger wearing high heels. But first, remember that if you want to discuss this episode as you listen or afterward, you can find all related ways to contact Abby and myself in the show notes. You can contact Abby on her website, abigailstason.com. That's Stason. Don't forget you can see all of my writings and rantings on agentpalmer.com. And of course, email can be sent to thepalmerfiles@gmail.com. So without further ado, let's get into it. Abby, you wear many hats, like so many hats, like author, counselor, probably many others. I mean, you're obviously an entrepreneur as well, and a marketer, and a bit like wear a lot of hats. If I had met you at a party and I said, "What do you do?" What's the one you're leading with? Like, and we're strangers, so you don't know me. You don't know if I'm a potential client. You know nothing. It's just, oh, hey, hi, Abby. What do you do? Like, what do you lead with? Like, what do you want me to know the most?
I equip human beings and leaders with behavioral skills for a global new world.
Okay. That's a lot. What you've come. This is the end of your rainbow, right? Like this is the end of your, well, not the end, but this is not where you started.
Correct. I definitely didn't start here, but I feel like I'm in my groove now and have been for quite a few years. And I just turned 60.
And you've worked for other people.
Yep, I did. I got out of college and went to the corporate world, worked for a small bank, and then I worked for on Wall Street.
Okay.
Which usually shocks people.
Well, I'm leading to this question, which is now you work for yourself. Having done it for an amount of time, do you go, man, this would have been great to do did you need everything else? Some people need it. Some people don't. Like, did you need all the other stuff to appreciate working for yourself, or?
Did I need it? I don't know that I needed it, but I do like to have different experiences. So I'm really grateful for my corporate experience and working for others and working with teams. But then I was in California and I met a ton of entrepreneurs, and I thought it'd be nice to experience that also. Okay. To get a different feel. And also, to work for myself, to see what that feels like. It's edgy, you have to go out and make money and prospect on your own. But I just thought it was a great experience to complement what I'd already done. Okay. I like to have a variety of experiences. So did I need, did I need it, but I feel like it was all outlined perfectly for me at the time that I left and wanted to become an entrepreneur.
So
I had nothing to lose. I had
Okay.
nothing to lose.
So the thing you said about wanting the different experiences is the exact reason I'm thankful that I had a crappy fast food job and I had a crappy retail job, because I think that those experiences, I mean, I ended up in the nonprofit world, and then, well, here I am. Like it wasn't like I didn't really I never found my footing, if I'm being honest. But that foundation in service and retail and food, like those are the alternatives. That's what, I've been there. So I now know I don't want to go back. And I need that base level. I think that base level is so important. And it also taught me a lot about the leader I don't want to be.
Yes, absolutely. I always say I personally have learned a lot from the people I don't want to be.
Yep.
And from the people I do want to emulate, right? So yeah, you can learn. It's my opinion, my experience, and I actually share this with clients, that you can learn a lot from toxic leaders, on what not to do, how not to behave.
Yeah, I spent, the fast food was only, say, 2.5 years. It was like my first real job as like a late teen.
Yeah.
But retail was where I landed after college for 7 years, where I always joked, and I guess it could still be a thing, that like having seen so many people go through the assistant manager or manager roles, I could easily write a book about how not to be a leader. Yeah. I mean, I think I had 2 genuinely good, empathetic leaders in my 7 years there, which was probably 15 different people overall. I don't know if that's everybody's experience with that. I mean, not everybody's in there for 7 years, but the math on that is astounding for how many people I learned what not to do.
That's a great topic we're talking about. And I'm reflecting on my own experience. I think my ratio is a little bit higher than yours. But I always tell people, well, first of all, people don't leave their jobs. They leave their manager for the reasons we're talking about. And, my experiences, I've had a couple of pretty horrible, 3 to 5 really horrible managers, leaders, bosses, whatever term we're using. And it's awful.
Yeah. And
if that gets to be the ratio on the hit on that, it gets to be too high, then it's time to make a change. But it's, and it goes back to basically what I teach too, is we're really not taught how to lead and manage people. We're taught the what of the world. Like retail, we're taught how to sell widgets, how to sell products.
Yeah.
We're not really taught how to behave while we're selling products.
Well, it's the weirdest thing, because it goes to a generalization that I have friends that have moved up the corporate ladder over the last maybe 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And they're always amazed at how many people fail upwards. And in full context, my mother was an entrepreneur. She was a consultant specifically related to internal marketing. And so when I was 5 and 6 and 7 and 8, as a captive audience for my mother to practice some of her speaking things too, I picked up a few things. And so I tell these friends, this horrible manager you have was really good at the job you currently have. And they went, you can be in charge now. And that's a reward to that person for being good at your existing job. But they don't ask, are you good with people? They go, we would like to reward you for doing a good job. Here, be in charge. And most people, I find, will not say, no, don't give me the promotion. They will be, okay, I'll do that. That sounds, it's more money, it's more responsibility. Both of those things go hand in hand, but most people are like, but I'm moving up the ladder. This is great. And then they stagnate because they're not selling anymore. Now you're managing a team, you're managing people, you're not selling the widgets, so to speak. And I think until you see it, or it happens to you and you get to that point where you're below a bad manager, not a bad person, we're not saying that, but just a bad manager, you don't believe me when I say, like I think some of my friends had to experience it to really understand what I was talking about.
It feels true to me too. You start out typically as an individual contributor, then you go to manager.
Yep.
And then you go to leader.
Yeah.
So and there's different levels within each of those roles, if you will. And so as an individual contributor, that role is going to be different than a manager. It's going to be different than a leader.
Do you find, because this is the thing that I always am astounded by, a lot of these promotions happen out in the open, but with very little education. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Abby, yeah. we would like, you've been salesperson of the year 5 years in a row. We would like you to lead the team. And then we give you the keys to your new corner office and no education about actually managing a team. We just hope that your sales experience can be passed down to everyone else. Is that?
I mean, in an ideal world, the company provides training, leadership development, training and development, so that if you're an individual contributor and want to be a manager, that you get some training for that. And then if you're a manager and want to become a leader,
you get some more
director, training. VP, et cetera, that you get some more training. The world's not a perfect place, as you know. So, not all companies have the budget to provide that, or the wherewithal to provide that, or the pressure from the market doesn't provide that. But I feel there's a shortfall of investment in the people side, and we're seeing that now. All these soft skills and other skills that are needed really create, when they're not trained effectively and developed, it creates a lot of downtime. And that then in turn affects sales and production and efficiency and all that. So when we don't focus on the people, the business side suffers greatly. There's an ROI on training and developing people, and we just haven't gotten to the point where we're convinced of that, which is shocking to me. Because if you have, let's use your scenario, okay? Let's say it's a company of 50,000 people, or even like 25,000 people, and there's 5 companies like that across the U.S. And let's say you have 1,000 managers at each company.
Yep.
And not ramping up into a manager. That's hours, and do the math. We can do the math on that and then take the salaries. That's millions and millions and millions of dollars.
Yeah. And they got there by being good at something else. Which is
you're talking about the Peter principle. So that's the Peter principle.
Yep.
Yeah, they're good at something else. So and that that inherently to me is a positive, good thing. It's like, Jason, you're doing great. It's sales. We want to reward you for that and promote you. So let's make you a manager. But then, it's, okay, wait, well, I love I'm going to take the promotion.
Yeah,
of course, like you said. But then it's like, okay, what am I doing now? How is my role different? And if the company doesn't provide that, it's really up to each of us as individuals to say, okay, what are my gaps?
Yeah.
And that's hard to do.
Well,
that's hard to do.
So let's see if I can Cliff Notes this. I was in retail for 7 years, and I landed into a nonprofit marketing gig for 9, and then leadership changed, and basically anybody who had anything to do with the old was gone, and I was let go at that point. And then and that was I was marketing, but I was also IT, so I had a hybrid role, and I was the first one of my cohort of that purge to get a job in IT, and then that kind of dwindled off right before COVID. So I was only there for like a year or maybe less. And then COVID happened, and I was in the middle of a job search during COVID, which was a horrible thing to do. And I was like, all right, well, I'm just going to consult, so to speak, for a little bit, because I've had a side business for 18 years now, I think. Just doing whatever I could to help, basically. At one point it was building websites. Now it's editing podcasts. I'm sure at some point it was marketing and strategy. And so I've kind of fallen back on that. But along the way, not because of this podcast, but it's helped. I've talked to a lot of different kinds of people. And I did do some career coaching at one point, and I did read some, I guess, self-help books, career self-help books that have you examine your gaps, right? So I have personally at different times kind of taken a look at what my gaps may or may not be. And I am the best and worst example for anyone who's a coach, because I'm willing to tell you that I'm not really good at, I don't want to be a leader, although other people will tell you I can do it. And I don't know if that says, I don't know what that says about me. That's a whole different thing. But I will tell you that a lot of the time when you want to discover what your gaps are, a lot of the exercises start with, where do you want to be? Or what do you want to be? And this has been my biggest hurdle, because as we record right now, at more than 40 years of age, I have no clue. Like, am I happy with the things I'm doing now? Yes. Are they what I want to be doing? I don't know. And so I can tell you a few of the gaps I have in that kind of where my skills lack, but I don't know in relation to what. And so that's kind of my big hurdle. And I think part of it is I'm being honest when I say that. And I challenge a few of my friends who are in big corporate things, going like, but is this where you want to be? Like, you went to school for history and writing, and now you're in insurance. Like, I understand you have a good job, but that's not the question. Is this where you want to be? So when people, like if I was going to be a client of yours, if you were to ask me, here's my answer. Abby, I don't know.
That's okay. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, that's absolutely okay. That's where you start then. So then the question is, okay, what do I want? Now, that can be a very broad question, but really what we're talking about, and you mentioned you're 40 now, at 40 is a good time to sit down and say, what is it that I enjoy doing? Like, what are my values?
Okay.
What's important to me? So that's the first step. So I'm going to get quite tactical with you, because like everything we're talking about, it simply involves a skill.
Okay.
So we're talking, we're going to get a little bit into behavior and all that, but my experience is like every question I have can be resolved with a skill. So there's a formula for it. Okay, first of all, look, now that you've been in the workforce and had some experience, you can start to ask questions like, okay, what is it that I really enjoy doing? What are my values as a human being? Everything from like, what do I value in myself, like trust or being real, to, I have to be close to the outdoors. That's one of my values.
Okay.
So I worked in Manhattan. What did I do? I left Manhattan and went to California because like I have to have the outdoors. So that's an easy one, but that's a simple example. So you figure out what your values are, and then you figure out what you actually enjoy doing in the day to day, because that's where then individual contributor, manager, leader, entrepreneur, and all of that will help resolve that and answer that. Okay, what is it I actually like to do? So a good exercise is to sit down and say, okay, clean slate, regardless of money, kids, anything.
Yep.
Get the whiteboard out. If I won the lottery tomorrow, what would I do? And it's not, no, I'd quit and go to Hawaii. That's not what I'm looking for. It's like we get in our own way because we say we can't and all that. But you just sit down and say, how do I want to be spending my day to day? How do I want to contribute in the world?
Well, I can answer some of that very easily now, because if money was no object, I would probably be doing a variation of what I'm doing now. I would write for the blog. I would have my own podcast, and I would try and help others do whatever it is they're doing. I'm helping with a podcast I believe in. I'm really trying to get 3 of my friends to get back into the creative space in various ways. And, well, I mean, I was volunteering on boards for nonprofits. That went away because I have a 1-year-old, and I was like, all right, something's got to give here. But I I also go like to the people that are like, oh, money's no object, I'm going to Hawaii. Like I need to do stuff. Like maybe that's just me. I don't know. But I couldn't. I mean, the story I'd like to tell is I had my full-time job doing nonprofit marketing, which is 40 hours a week. And I bought a house. And when in the process of moving from my apartment to my house, I stopped writing my blog. Just completely stopped. And so I decided when I was settled that I wouldn't just write once a week. I would write twice a week for a rolling year. And it would start in November and move along. Because I was like, well, I have everything settled-ish now. So I was like, I'm going to overachieve instead of once a week. Let's do twice a week for a full year. And well, that would be 104 posts for a normal person, but I had a 40-hour week, but I'm a stupid, ridiculous overachiever. I went 124 because of course I did, right? And then I decided I was going to take a week off from everything. The blog, I had worked ahead enough, the main job, a whole thing. I wasn't going to do anything. I lasted half a day. I was like, I'm not going to write. I've just been writing all the time. I'm not going to do anything. I lasted half a day. I read some comic books. I read a couple chapters of whatever novel I was reading. I watched a movie, and then I went, I got to do something. It's that simple.
Well, yeah, okay. So now we're getting into the ability the skills to integrate and to rest and to have a still mind. So now we're getting into the ability to be still and listen to what action wants to happen. Because if you can, so you overachieved on the blogs.
Yep.
I heard.
Yep.
Okay. So then I would think you'd want to reward yourself with something fun. Not that the blogging is probably really satisfying, but at some point you want to integrate. So integrating an experience is important. It's like resting and integrating so you can move on to the next thing. If you can't sit still, that's always, in my experience, problematic. Well, not horribly problematic, but I'm hearing you're a contributor. Well, so am I. You're on the call with some. I'm inherently a contributor. Of course I am. Yeah. What I find that people can't be still.
Yeah.
And they get into a lot of motion, and the motion. Then the question is, does that motion really want to happen? Are you antsy?
I think I oversimplified it, being like getting off a boat. You still feel the motion of the ocean, so to speak. I think I was writing, and then I was like, oh, I'm going to take a break from all this. And it was like, I mean, you can slow down, but stopping altogether, that I think was inherently my mistake. Not, I mean, in hindsight, obviously at the time I was like, maybe I just can't take a break. But now it was probably like, well, you should have allowed yourself to do some writing if you like. Yeah, I don't find writing tedious, obviously. Otherwise, that would have been the worst year of my life. Like, what's going on? Why would anybody want that if it's not fun?
I love your getting off the boat and still feeling the boat analogy. I'm going to use that. I'll give you full credit. That's an excellent analogy, because if you're running intensely, then you get off the boat. You are still going to feel the boat because you're coming off that wave of activity. Now, the wave of activity was quite long. It can be long or short.
Yeah.
Okay. So yours was quite long. That's okay. So it's, it sounds like for you, your integration process would be more to like step off the boat, keep some motion going to get your sea legs back, or your land legs back. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is where, so instead you stopped cold turkey. So you're off the boat, but you're like, wait a minute, I can still feel the boat rocking, but I'm trying to act like the boat's not rocking. And let me ask you a question. So when you were in the intensity of it, this is a question, I'm curious.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you were breathing and in flow, or did you feel like you were running adrenaline, now known as epinephrine?
I think that on a whole, I try to be a fairly organized person, and that's mainly true most of the time, right?
Okay.
But I'm not like always super organized. Sometimes, it's like, oh, it's been a while. It's time to clean off the desk. And then I can maintain, or like I can stay organized or whatever. So to answer your question, it was a full year. I think that there were some good weeks where like it was in the flow and it would flow and I would write one post a night, maybe on average, and there were other times when, a block would hit or I'd have a really long post. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, that's tomorrow's post is done, but I don't have anything for Thursday or whatever, right? Like later in the week, I'm tapped out. I'm no longer ahead of the game. And I think throughout the course of that year, it ebbed and flowed from being ahead to, it's 3 a.m. the night before your test is due, your essays due it in high school, right? Like, so I think it ebbed and flowed between both. On a whole, I think it was probably more I was ahead and I was able to stay in the flow state. But I think there was definitely at least a few times over that year where there was anxiety of like, oh, am I going to drop the ball here? Like, am I not going to have anything for maybe not tomorrow, but I don't know. I don't remember it ever being like, oh, I need to write something for tomorrow. But there was definitely like I need to write something for a day from now or whatever.
It sounds like there's an opportunity for you when I'm listening to you and hearing what you're saying. For me, what I learned, and it sounds like there's an opportunity for you, so check it out. I don't want to project on you, but there seems to be an opportunity where you learn how to integrate in shorter amounts of time rather than working a whole year and then stopping. Like, there can be moments of integration or a day of integration.
Well, yeah, I've turned. So what I learned from that year has been I'm a big proponent of striking while the iron's hot. And that's just
smart.
That's just the nature of the creativity, so to speak, right? And here's the thing, I rely on guests for this show, and while it's not necessarily creativity, I will find that I will record 7 episodes in 7 weeks, and then I'll get 8 people to say yes, and scheduling won't work out for another 5, right? But I'm still technically ahead too, right? So I'm always trying to work ahead. And I guess the same is true for the blog, where it's like, I will write and write and write and write. But then all of a sudden, either a long post will happen or, you get sick or something, life happens. But I always have a built-in buffer for the most part. So that way, when I am still, or when I just can't or won't, or whatever the issue is, I have a built-in buffer from when the times were good, when it was easy, so to speak, that I can weather the writer's block, the lack of scheduling with guests, the what have you. And I learned that along the way. I didn't start the podcast and the blog going, well, if I work ahead, I can weather out. Like, no, you learn that along the way.
Yeah, and I think that's what you're saying is the most important thing is, what are you learning about yourself along the way? That's what it's like, it's a journey, not to sound corny, but
it has, but learning, if it's not a journey, then like, where are you going?
Great point. Yeah.
It's just, so I'm going to turn around on you for a second, because you jumped in, like the coach in you came out so quickly, and I appreciate that. And I'm the helper in me also tends to come out really quickly, right? Were you? I will be the first to admit I was not always this way. The helper in me was not like maybe a decade ago, maybe in my 30s. If we had met and you had said like, I'm having a problem in marketing, like the first thing I would have been like is, well, how can I help? Right? Like, that's only in the last decade, let's say. Have you always been like a helper? Like have you always been able to jump in and just start helping? Or is that, as with me, did it evolve?
That's a great question, because that's a razor's edge for me. Used to be, let me say that. So I'm a reformed rescuer.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm a reformed hero. So I used to step in a lot and run myself out. That's one of the reasons I left Wall Street. I was really headed to burnout. No one knew. I mean, I was just running myself ragged. Now it's just a way that I live. So when people are talking about behavior, I could have every response I gave to you, I could have just made about me. That's why I said, like, here's what I notice about me.
Okay.
So what everything you're saying is familiar to me.
Okay.
So so I was like, okay, well, I have my own experience of that, and here's what I've noticed. But yeah, I'm definitely a reformed hero. I'm part of the drama that I used to get into. Headaches, neck pain, shoulder pain, running a lot of adrenaline in the corporate world. No one knew.
But
no one knew.
Did you know? Or were you just so...
Yeah, I mean, great question. I knew that. So now I'm happy to put words to it, and I've been happy to put words to it for years now. I left Wall Street in 2010. But I was here, actually, what happened is I was working in Lower Manhattan, and I was working in 4 World Financial Center. Not this was after Trade Towers. This went down 2004 to 2006. So I lived in Jersey.
Okay.
Took the train to Hoboken and the ferry over, to Lower Manhattan. So I was coming home one day, you wouldn't recognize me now. High hair, blue suit, high heels, briefcase, the whole thing. You can just go ahead and put the stereotype on me. So I was leaving the building, and I knew I was going to just miss the ferry. And It's not very far. So here I am running in my heels, and I passed a runner in running shoes. So I got on the ferry. I made the ferry. I sat down. I'm laughing now, but I was like, okay, this is unhealthy. This has to stop. I just passed a runner, and I'm in my high heels.
I mean, that's your movie moment, by the way. Like, that's...
It was. I can still see it. I know exactly where it was. The springtime. It wasn't snowy, and I know exactly where I was. I'm looking at it right now. This wasn't an Olympic runner, okay? It was just a jogger, but I'm in high heels.
Yeah.
A business suit and my briefcase.
And you didn't stretch. It's not like you were prepared for a run.
No,
this is and you passed someone who probably stretched, or at least knew, ate a diet so they could, get ready and go. And okay. So, dangerous question. If you're on time for the ferry, are you still in Wall Street right now? Like, was that the moment? That was your butterfly flaps its wings, and now I leave Wall Street? And if you make the ferry on time for what, like, the meeting doesn't go long, and you leave and you don't have to run in your heels and pass the jogger?
So I'll say that was the straw that broke the camel's back.
Okay.
I knew something was up, but that was the moment when I'm like, okay, I'm just running myself ragged. Like I didn't even have that much thought. I just was like, okay. I can remember sitting down, we're crossing into Hoboken on the river. I'm just like, this has got to change. This is not, I'm like, this is not working for me anymore. I didn't even have it was so solid and truthful that I didn't even need to expand on it. I'm like, this has got to change.
Okay.
I mean, it was it. There was lots of moments before that, sure.
Well, in hindsight,
that built up to that in hindsight.
Yep.
But that was it. I'm like, okay. And then from that point forward, I'm like, okay, I'm going to change this. And so I did. Shortly thereafter, I made a move to California and some other things.
So this is where I'm most fascinated with your story. And I'll say it, sports, right? Because your moment passing the jogger is what I like to call the equivalent of athletes, especially professional athletes, retiring at 40, right? Like 40's old in almost every professional sport. And all these guys, for the most part, let's say baseball or basketball, they played it when they were kids. They played it in middle school, in high school, in college, and then they went professional. And then they turned 40, 41, whatever. They age out of the league. They're sitting next to you on the ferry, right? And now it's time for what's next. And maybe this is because of where I'm at and trying to figure out exactly what's next. But how did you know California? How did you know, like, even just California as an example? How did you know it was time to go west? Did you happen to see, were you watching musicals? And it was like, all right, well, the musical's telling me to go west. So that's what I'm going to, like, what was it?
It's a little bit like that. I don't think I've ever told anyone this, and it's not a big secret. I'm just laughing because I have it. When I was a little girl, there was a cartoon that was set in the redwoods. I think it was Disney or something, because you know how they have the real background, but then cartoons come in through it?
Yep.
There was a big redwood with a hole in it that was shaped like a tunnel.
Okay.
And you could walk through it.
Yep.
And I was like, I want to live there.
Okay.
I'm like, I want to live there. I love that. I want to live there. So then fast forward, I had visited California. Make a long story short, I actually took a job out there for a year during 2000 and 2001 during the tech debacle that happened out there, the bubble and the 9/11. So I end up moving back to the East. And after that, I'm like, okay, yeah, ferry experience, passing the runner in my heels. Then it started to be a bit of a process. I'm like, okay, where do I want to live? I'm like, I don't want to live on the East Coast anymore. Born and raised, love Manhattan, but I am just love the West Coast. I love the mountains out here. I like the weather. And so I started to put my attention towards moving west.
Okay.
So I had lived in California for a while before, not for very long, but I had visited it and just loved the outdoors. So I started to make steps towards, okay, that's where, first of all, the question is like, where do I want to be? Okay, West Coast.
Okay. All right.
And that goes back to childhood when
you saw the cartoon.
I know it sounds crazy.
No.
But it just stuck with me that, I wanted to live in California because of that cartoon.
I started this conversation by asking you what you would say you do, because you wear a lot of different hats. So I want to ask you something different, which is there anything left you haven't done that you want to do?
Wow, that's a really great question. I just turned 60. I mean, not really.
Okay.
Not really. Like, I don't have a huge desire. There's not much unsettled in me. And, you know, I'm 20 years older than you. So when you get to be my age, and I'm starting to sound old, but I love my life. Okay. I love what I do. I love my role. I live in Southern Oregon now. I'm looking outside. There's mountains around me. I don't really have a huge urgency to travel a lot of places. When I think about a bucket list, I really don't have one.
Yeah, I was thinking more in terms of like
day-to-day.
You've already written a book, right? Like mm-hmm. You know, like, and that's a creative endeavor that a lot of people, I find a lot of people want to do but are afraid to start. So you've already done that, right? And it's just like, all right, well, I feel like obviously we haven't touched, like, there's a lot more to your story, but like it does feel like. And you know, this is another cliche we're falling into, but like 60's not like, if you and I go back, right, to when you were 40 and I was 20, 60 would have been old to both of us. And now, I'll be honest, you saying you're 60 doesn't make me feel like you're old. And me being 40 now doesn't, like, it just, you know, is 60 the new 40? I guess it's individual to everyone else, but having known you for just an hour, no, you're not like you've still got what I would consider more than half your life left. Oh, I'm getting my second wind. Okay. I'm starting my second wind. I mean, yeah, are there a few things I'd love to do? I have a few things that I'm working on. Like, I'm working on some online courses, you know, from a grand scale. I'd love to get the skills I teach into the hands of everyone, because they just bring more peace and ease and freedom. You know, on a tactical level, one of the things I'd love to build, I'm kind of reaching out to people and connections, is a VR rage room. Okay. Yeah,
because, you know, rage rooms are all the rage now, smash rooms and all that.
I love the idea, because it gets out all the rage without the cleanup. Like, that's brilliant.
That's right. Thank you. So you have to get the gear, you have to get the things to smash, but in a VR headset, the sky's the limit. You can choose your bat, you can choose your sledgehammer, choose different rooms, and get your anger out. You know, so I definitely have things I want to do, but so lots that I'm going to get done here, and I'm just getting my second wind, but I feel really peaceful and content and settled. So I don't feel rushed to do anything. I don't feel the doing of it all. It's just like, stay in flow, see what shows up, support people in being more conscious so that they have more peace, ease, and freedom, and see where this second wind takes me.
I want to know, would you on the ferry believe what you're saying right now. Like if what you just said to me about being in a good place and being happy and content and knowing kind of the things you still want to do, but knowing you still have time to get there and not a rush, specifically not a rush. If you had time traveled back to you on the ferry and said all these things, would you have believed yourself?
Yeah, my answer kind of it was yes. The dialogue back then is more about I don't want to live this way anymore, and I'm not sure what it looks like to not live this way, but I know that I'm up for the jump off the cliff to find out.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, completely.
Yeah.
Because it's one of those things where, I do often ask people, like, usually it's not that specific. Usually it's like, if you told 12-year-old you were here, like, would you believe it? And a lot of people say no, because we were very different people back then. That's before.
If you ask my 12-year-old, I would say, hell no. Are we allowed to swear?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, my 12-year-old, I'm clueless.
Do you know what did 12-year-old you want to be?
Well, when I was little, I actually wanted to be a biomedical engineer. I wanted to help people that didn't have limbs and build fake limbs for them,
Okay.
replace their limbs and things like that.
All right. That's very specific.
I know it is. It's oddly specific. I know. It's so also, so I'm 60. So I was born in 66, right? So if I were born 10 years ago, I'd definitely become an engineer. I'd be in STEM, mathematics or something like that. Okay. But I was born in 66. So you have to think, so I'm 20 right around 1986. STEM in women isn't really a thing. Science, technology, engineering, mathematics, et cetera. Yeah. So it's like, I don't feel victim-y about it, but just, I'm glad women have different opportunities than I did back then. So it just wasn't something you heard about a lot.
Okay.
So if I were born, 10 years ago or even 15 years ago, yeah, I'd definitely be getting into, I might even become a biomedical engineer. You just don't know.
That's fair. Yeah. Were you an English, writing, creative person?
I wasn't at all. No, I wasn't at all. I wasn't. I was actually a management major.
Okay.
At Moravian, management and finance.
Well, I mean, you definitely followed that until you went to California.
Yeah, and that's part of what we're having this discussion too, is because I was pretty much in a trance growing up. Like I didn't really think, what do I like doing? What do I not like doing? What do I want my major to be? What do I not want it to be? I just kind of fell into it. I went to Moravian because I got a little bit of money to play basketball and it was close to home. So it's a bit in a trance,
Okay.
I don't want to call that in a bad way. So, I teach people to be conscious now. I was pretty unconscious. It's all good. Like, I'm not going to judge it or anything. So I just went into management. It felt easy. And then, I had a management degree, finance background. Well, why don't I go work for a bank? And then why don't I go work on Wall Street? And that was kind of what you did also, get into Wall Street. That was a big corporate sector. And I'm really grateful for that because I moved around the country on Wall Street. I got to meet a lot of different business owners, family office people. I talked to clients, all kinds of clients that did a whole bunch of different things. So I got a lot of exposure to different things through that job, which then led me to say, okay, now what do I want to do?
I mean, I have to say, I spend a lot of time, not as much anymore, but for a good portion of this podcast, maybe from its origin through episode 1, recently, my best friend had a job that he kind of hated. And I always talked to people who had changed jobs. He's changed jobs now. He's in a different place. But I always talked to people that had changed something drastically like you did. And a lot of it was, yours is the safest thing. Like most people had the death of a parent, the death of they had tragedy that made them reevaluate their life. And I know you said you were on your way towards burnout, but running past a jogger in heels is hardly the tragedy that most people need to be the straw that breaks the camel's back. And so while I don't have to worry about him as much anymore, I'm still enamored with the idea because most of the people, and sometimes we've talked about it, on this show directly say, none of my friends, I could have had an intervention. Without this tragedy, it wouldn't have mattered. Like the tragedy needed to be the straw. There was going to be no intervention that changed me beforehand. And
Agreed.
There's a part of me that I need you to tell me that, because it was frustrating for me as his friend to be like, I need you to change. And him being like, it's fine. Like, there's always an excuse, and I understand that, but you need to come to it on your own, whether it's passing a jogger or a tragedy of your own. You can agree with me all you want. I'm not going to change you. Words aren't going to do it.
Right. And I had to get to my own breaking point. Yeah, you're right. I didn't have a massive tragedy, but I was, experiencing body pain and was kind of unhealthy. I was energetic. I'm energetic overall, but I was definitely headed to burnout. So luckily I didn't burn out, but a lot of times it does take something really big for people to shake up and wake up, so to speak, to say, okay, this is too much for me. So mine was like the boiling frog, the slow boiling frog.
Okay.
Other people go into throw the frog in boiling water, it jumps out. Mine was like a slow death, if you will.
But luckily you got out in time.
Oh yeah, I'm very happy I did. I mean, it was a gutsy move. I remember when I finally left after the crash in 2010. So I moved west, and then that was like 2005, 2006, the ferry ride. And then, shortly thereafter, I relocated to the West Coast and stayed on Wall Street. And then from there, it was like 2010, I left. That was after the market crash. And then a little bit of this too. My father was sick in 2009. So the market had crashed. My father got sick and died in 2009. And while I wasn't criticized for taking time off, I never really got a lot of support saying, take as much time as you need. How can we support you? Don't worry about work. I got a couple of calls saying, when are you coming back? And my father's on his deathbed. So that was like, okay, that was the final. I'm like, okay, that's it.
Okay.
I am going to leave. But it was already in motion.
Okay.
But that was like the final where I said, okay, this is enough. And so I left.
So I do want to ask, did obviously you were still in Wall Street, but did the physical move from East Coast to West Coast, did that ease the decision a little bit? Like, because obviously if you're even remotely still in the shadow of New York, Wall Street is kind of like there as a ticking clock. Like, you're always in its shadow. Did moving west help?
It helped dramatically. So a little bit about me, or a lot about me. I have such a strong preference for introversion that it could go to infinity and that wouldn't be far enough.
Okay.
So that's also why I need the outdoors. I love Manhattan. It's the best city in the world. It just rocks. But it's too much concrete and honking horns for me.
Okay.
I need mountains, trees, fresh air. So that was the first step, was, okay, where do I want to be? Let me move out there. And now that I'm getting a feel for the outdoors and all that, what's next?
Okay.
And then next was to leave, really jump ship and start over. I can remember pulling over on the 101 on a Monday morning and breathing into a paper bag going, what did you just do? You just left 19 years and you have no financial cushion. You're starting over because remember the crash had happened and slaughtered all of our money, so I had absolutely nothing to lose, but I was like, oh my God, what did you do? But I'm so glad I did. It's just such a grand experiment to move towards my value set, the people I want to be around, the things I want to be doing in the world, how I want to contribute, how I want to live, how I want to behave, all the things.
So I want to ask one final question, and it's fairly simple, which is, how comfortable are you with asking yourself what's next now? Because obviously we've talked about your points where what's next was, a pivotal thing. And now, because you're comfortable, are you still comfortable with, taking a walk and being like, well, what's next? Is that still a comfort question?
Great question. And I'm appreciating your question because it gives me a chance to reflect on myself. It switches from what's next to deep listening. Because asking the question, what's next, can also be a doing. So it shifted to this deeper listening of how can I be best used in the world without letting myself push, but rather listening what wants to come next for me.
Okay.
And I can give you I can give you a specific example of that if you want.
Yeah, of course.
I left Wall Street and lived in the Bay, Northern California. So it was 2019. And I thought something wants to change. Something wants to happen differently. I'm just going to listen. So I listened for like a good 12 months. I kept working and all that. I'm like, something wants to be different. I'm not sure what it is, but something big is coming down the pike. In the meantime, I'm like, my mom is going to need help. So something wants to change for me, and my mom's going to want help. She's in South Carolina. They had retired down there. So I had friends in Beaufort, North Carolina, and I was talking to them. I'm like, I think my mom's going to need help. I'm not sure what's going to happen here, but they're like, why don't you come visit here? So I did. I flew over for the weekend. I'm like, yeah, this is where I'm meant to be next. I don't know why, but I'm going to come here to the coast of North Carolina. I'll be 6 hours from my mom. I'm not sure why, but this feels right. So I did. I moved March of 2020. So I moved. I was scheduled to fly east. March 31st, I moved it up by 2 weeks because I'm like, I'm never going to get out of here because COVID started to come into play.
Yep.
So I flew on a red eye that Thursday night. Friday, I arrived on the East Coast. The whole world shut down the next Monday. So it was perfect because my mom needed help. We moved her into assisted living. So I spent 2.5 years just focusing on that. And then sure enough, after 2.5 years, in fact, my mom said in a very beautiful conversation, I'm just summarizing it, you did great when Dad died. You did great with me. I know you love the West. Go for it. Much longer conversation, very more beautiful. Okay. So then I was like, okay, where do I want to be next? Sounds like Ashland, Oregon, where my spiritual teacher is. So I flew out for a week to attend a retreat that I had planned. And I got out here, I'm like, yeah, this is right. So then a week later, I call my friend. I'm like, look, there's this apartment for rent. Can you go look at it? She's like, yeah, I'll go look at it. I rented it on the spot. I was moved coast to coast in less than 30 days.
Okay.
I couldn't keep up with how fast it wanted to happen. It's because I got out of the way and listened to what wanted to happen next. It shifts from listening, or it shifts from doing to deep listening.
From doing to deep listening may seem a little out there to many people, perhaps even new agey, but that's a language thing that is sometimes associated with deep listening. The point of it is not new agey at all. The point is that we can all do better at getting out of our own way. What that actually means is purely a personal thing, but start with listening to your world and yourself and see where it takes you. You don't have to be asleep. You don't have to go with the flow. That may work for some, but I know it does not work for everyone. Abby is a great example. I'm a work in progress, but I'm not forcing anything either. Do you need a coach like Abby? It couldn't hurt, but I can also say that at minimum, you should find someone who you can talk to who wants what is best for you, even if you aren't sure what that is. Abby and I barely scratched the surface, but know that I have been where Abby is for some people, asking questions and trying to help them clarify their own path. It's not easy. It's not easy at all. Even getting out of our own way and seeing what your world is pointing you towards or your gut is telling you isn't easy. We all carry the baggage of expectation from the status quo. It may be the thing that holds people back even more than finances and security. So, take a deep breath, relax, and understand that the next step may not be easy, but most of life isn't easy. So why should following your own path by getting out of your own way be any different? Thanks for listening to the Palmer Files episode 177. And now for the official business. The Palmer Files releases every 2 weeks on Tuesdays. If you're still listening, I encourage you to join the discussion. You can find all related ways to contact Abby or myself in the show notes. You can connect with Abby on her website, abigailstason.org. That's Stason. The music for this episode was provided by Henno Heitur. Email and comments can be sent to this show at thepalmerfiles@gmail.com. And remember, your home for all things Agent Palmer is agentpalmer.com. Abby, do you have one final question for me?
Well, you asked me about me and my experience in being 60. I'm super curious with you now. You're 40. What have you learned about yourself? And what are your, massive aha moments about yourself that have really been pivotal for you?
I think the first is, I'm a new father, and that's apparently normal. Like half of the people that I graduated college with, or that are in my cohort, had kids right out of college way back in 2004-ish, and the other half are having them now. Right. And there's this big, time doesn't necessarily mean what it used to. And specifically because I'm in that shoulder generation in between Gen X and millennial, where I still grew up with an analog childhood, which is why I feel more Gen X than millennial, because millennials had the internet all along and I kind of grew up with it. And to that, I mean, the Gen X analog childhood was very similar to my parents, the boomer childhood, which was very similar to every generation before. That analog childhood experience was very specific. And even though television changed over that course of that time, the media of the time, whether it be comic books or television or movies, portrayed certain things. You were going to go to college or get a job or go to a trade school, and then you were going to get married and have kids. And then you were going to work for a long time and retire. And so my generation specifically split with some of us didn't go to college. Some of us had kids. Some of us didn't. Some of us took a while to get married. And all of that is to say the time has so much less meaning than it used to. The template that maybe you or I saw within media of all kinds growing up. And there was, let's be real, there was a template, and I know people are like, oh, but you're just talking about the 50s and the Jetsons and the Flintstones. It's but that was a template that existed for generation after generation in televisions and movies. It just existed. And so having smashed that template for whatever reason, because we, graduated in a horrible market, because, not all of us found our soulmate in college or shortly thereafter, because we ended up in retail for 7 years. And I wasn't the only one before getting an actual corporate, professional gig. It's kind of allowed me to view everything else as suggestions and guidelines. The template has officially been smashed to bits, right? And I know that I can say that because of the things around me and the things I've experienced. And I know that this is not necessarily something that everyone shares, but I think as the generations behind me tend to not follow in even my footsteps, I feel like more and more people are coming to the idea of, well, you know what, you can have your first kid at 40. That's fine. I mean, I didn't get married until 40 something. We were living together. Steph moved in with me, and we were living together for 7 years. We got married and had a kid within 6 months of each other, right? That's, again, we did it in the right order, but the template's a little bit skewed, right? And I think that's kind of colored everything else, because I was let go with 7 other people that I thought were wonderfully qualified for their job. And it was just our association with the previous guy, and all of us scattered to the wind and had vastly different experiences trying to figure out what's next. And while sometimes I'll admit all of us were forcing it, we weren't listening necessarily. I think that we were all still kind of following that existing template. Oh, you were let go at this position, so you're going to start looking at this position or whatever. I think I just threw that all away. And it was around that point. So when I started looking for jobs again, before my current freelance-ish gig, part-time gig kind of took hold and became a semi-permanent thing, this is going to sound weird to a lot of people, but I would self-sabotage at job interviews and networking events. And I see it as self-sabotage from other people's perspective. I think I was just being honest. And that was the self-sabotage. You and I in this episode talk about me saying, I don't know. A lot of people are uncomfortable with that.
Mm-hmm.
I love the fact that of my best friends, some are older than you and some are younger than me, right? I have a wide variety within the age category of people I consider close to me. And they are comfortable with me saying, I don't know, when we have some serious conversations about where you want to be. But when people are nice enough to network with you and have a cup of coffee with you, they genuinely usually just want to help. And they're not comfortable with you saying, I don't know, because then they can't help you, right? It's just not necessarily the easiest thing. And then it just becomes awkward. But I would also say that at job interviews where they're like, oh, well, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Well, here, I hope. Like, I don't, like, this is the part of the template I haven't kind of smashed, which is, well, Abby, if you want to hire me and I want to work for you enough to have applied, I would see myself still being here in 5 years. Like, I don't look at jobs as stepping stones. That's what I want to do. And it always confused me that, like, so in hindsight, it feels like self-sabotage. What do you want to do? I don't know. Where do you want to be? Here? Like, am I supposed to say I want your job? Like, I'm a simple person in that I like to be creative in certain ways. But when answering questions, the truth is always the easiest to answer, and it's always the easiest to remember. And I cannot think on the spot when you say, where do you want to be in 5 years? I don't know. I would like a job. And if I could be here for 5 years, that would be wonderful. Like, I don't know. Right. And so that's what I've learned is the template, not for me, apparently, of I've already smashed it. I need to do a little bit more dismembering of it so I can, I guess, see what comes my way, so to speak.
Excellent. Yeah. And that people struggle with, I don't know. I mean, it's tough. It sounds like you don't, but people on the receiving end of that are be like, I can't even imagine not knowing. That's something they can't even get into.
And there is a part of me, I wonder if there's a little envy because I am not afraid of it. And to your point, like there are people that are very afraid of I don't know. And I'm just like, that's why I'm a reader. Like, cause I'm searching, like I want different things. Like give me all the books. Let's find out something, but I don't know. It shouldn't be a dirty word. Or a dirty phrase. I
don't think it's dirty. I think it's just extremely scary.
Yeah. I guess that's what I've learned. Like it's not scary to me. Maybe I need a little bit to do more homework on why it's scary to everyone else, but no, it's fine.
Well, so what are you loving about fatherhood?
Well, at the moment, the big surprise is patience. I have some, not something I would have thought before. The rest of it is just, okay. I have patience in the moment, but I still have this massive impatience for the talking to start to find out what's going on in that tiny little head. But yeah, I guess I could always juggle a lot of things, but to peel back the curtain, Steph and I just, as you and I are recording, the episode that's about to go live that I've been working on is the one where Steph and I talk about having a 1-year-old and the things, and we do it from a parental perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I think the biggest thing is that we have no concept of what last year was like or 2 years ago. What was it like before we had a child, before we had another human in the house to take care of? And we have no concept of what that was. And life felt busy then. And I can tell you it's 100% busier now. I know that. I know it was never as busy back then as it is now. And I'm handling it. I think that's the biggest thing I've learned is like, well, I mean, I guess I was prepared. I guess this was the right time for whatever. But like, my God, I don't know what 3 or 4 or 5. I don't know what, I can't remember what any of that was like, but I'm handling the same amount of stuff now. But, I have a tiny human who relies on me for like everything.
Congratulations. That's great. Great story. Love it.